Welcome to another special edition episode of A Bro's Guide to Glitter. Since today is April Fool's Day, I thought we'd switch things up and talk about things we think should be considered girly. Some of these things we think women should embrace to the point that it becomes a stereotype, and some of these things should just keep existing as it is, but with a slightly feminine connotation. Today's guest is someone I've known for a very long time. We met doing Beauty and the Beast at Hillbarn Theater in 2013. She played LeFou, and I was Madame de la Grande Bouche, aka the Wardrobe. And then we went to Burrell Middle School together, and from that point on, we were practically in every single freaking show together from till we graduated high school. It's almost futile to list it. In fact, I played her mother twice. Yes, twice. She's a Taylor Swift mega fan. She loves cats. She loves manatees. She's an amazing songwriter. In fact, she wrote the music and lyrics to a musical about Emily Dickinson with a book written by her sister McKenna. And that was performed last semester at the University of Utah. You can listen to some of the songs from that on SoundCloud right now. She is currently getting her BFA in musical theater from Penn State University. Please welcome Teagan Reynolds.
Hello. Hello. Thank you, Sarah, for that really generous introduction.
Well, thank you for being on the podcast, Teagan.
Of course, I'm happy to be here.
Now, let the listeners know you're in a bit of a predicament right now.
Bit of a predicament. The day before spring break, which was the week of, I'm not even gonna try to remember. A week ago, whatever, in March, I tripped and fell down a staircase and broke my foot. And to any of those anatomy people who wish to know the details, it is an avulsion fracture to my right calcaneus. So I am home healing right now, and we thought it would be a perfect opportunity for me to come onto this podcast and give some input on this fine day.
Heck yeah, a great thing to do from the couch.
Yeah.
So, just so the listeners know, tell us more about your work as an actor and singer-songwriter. What inspires you?
What inspires me? I mean, when I rolled up to Penn State as a freshman, a thing that was really emphasized was the concept of being your own independent artist and exploring all of the little things that contribute to who you are and make you unique as an artist. And they really just wanted us all, like, there was no desire for us to be similar as performers and actors, and there were a lot of people writing music, and I think that inspired me to kind of start writing music. And then I found opportunities here and there to really, work on that and hone that in, while obviously continuing my training also as a performer. And then my sister approached me one day asking to write a musical, and from there another person asked me to work on a musical, and I kind of found this passion for writing music, and I hope to continue that. So that's kind of been my journey, and along with that I also hope to continue performing, and who knows, maybe I'll write a musical one day and be in it and do the whole Lin-Manuel Miranda. We'll see.
Definitely. And that's good that Penn State was encouraging of you to be individual, because certainly with what we're told in high school of BFA programs, they'll make every single person the same and they want a specific roster and they want you to play types. It's great now that people are trying to break out of that. Yeah. And I think the universities who do break out of that are doing that is a sign that it's one of the more leading programs.
Yeah, I and it's one of the reasons I also chose the program. I think it's just one of those things I felt when I walked into the room. Anyways, won't get too much into that, but I do feel very lucky to be somewhere that allows me to embrace aspects of myself that I might not have otherwise, and I'm grateful.
Yeah, yeah. So, today on this episode, we're talking about things that should be considered girly.
Yeah.
And we run into this problem with every episode of the podcast, but addressing this problem is extremely important now. How are we defining girly?
It's a great question, Sarah, and it honestly led me down a bit of a rabbit hole because first of all, the word girly is used can be used very positively, like talking about things that represent women and how amazing they are, or it could be used very negatively, kind of something that maybe a man would use to kind of something that might deter them away from using something, like, oh, that thing is girly.
Has the connotation of being wimpy.
Yeah, exactly. And then in questioning those things, I also realized that the alternative to girly that we tend to use is manly. There's no boily. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a thing. And so I think that's important to address in all this, that there should be either it should be the comparison in life of like womanly and manly, or there should be one down at that level of girly and boily. That sounds gross though.
Mm-hmm. Boily, yeah, it makes me think of like pus, like boil.
Yeah, ew, yeah.
And because when
But
I think of womanly, I feel like womanly has been used in a sexual way.
yeah,
Like I've only heard it in like probably shows and stuff to talk about like sexy women, like oh her womanly
yeah,
stance or whatever.
yeah. That's a very astute observation. That's so true. So
Mm.
if that's the case, if there's a differentiation there, then there should be one between manly and boily. Although, you could say boy like, but no, literally no one says that.
Boy, like yeah.
No one says that. So I guess I turn that to you a little bit, Sarah, of how are you defining girly?
How am I defining girly? I mean, I think with every episode, there's like different things that are used to define girly.
Yeah.
Like there's specific, just, mantras of pink, glitter, um, rainbows, unicorns, whatever, just like certain stereotypes that
Yeah.
point people to say, oh, well, that's girly. But
Yeah.
in so many cases, it's just simply the absence of men.
Yeah, I think that's okay. I think that's a great way to narrow this down.
Mm-hmm.
Which it honestly, in my mindset, does make it kind of a positive thing.
Yeah.
Like it makes it because I also feel like the things we're about to break down, I felt like I approached with as if girly is a positive thing, and I feel like
Yeah,
that
same.
kind of also coincides with just saying the absence of men.
Thinking about these things when I thought about like we should consider them girly, I didn't think we should, put the stereotypes on them of like pinks and rainbows,
Yeah.
but we should say, yeah, women should own this and say, this is a woman's thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, with that being said, are you ready to get into the episode?
I'm ready, Sarah.
Okay, so we were sharing some of what we thought before this episode. And for the first topic, we both came up with very similar things.
Yeah. I
So
mean, almost like the same thing.
yeah, yeah. So what I came up with was analog time. So for the listeners who don't know, digital time is when you see it on your phone as like 5:30, like the numbers written out. But the analog time is like the hands on the clock or like watches. So the reason I said this is because I've actually met people who are like my age or younger who don't know how to read analog time because digital clocks are so common. So like why look at a wall clock when you have your phone? So my theory is that in a few decades reading analog time will be considered antiquated, and only smart people will know how to read it. So let's claim this as a
As we
feminine.
know, I would say,
Exactly.
as we know, only women are smart.
Exactly. I was like, let's claim this as a feminine thing now so that women can gatekeep easy knowledge from everyone else.
I love that. I love that. I like I think I like that you are thinking into the future of like this is how, because that's how honestly could be like we can
Yeah.
really do that. My idea was that the concept of time is girly.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because it's funny because I feel like men are more associated with watches and things related to time, but
Yeah.
I don't think they actually use them. I think it's decoration.
The Rolex is a status symbol.
Exactly. And so I don't think they actually learn how to tell the time. And even so, even men who have phones and other things to tell time digitally, I just don't think they have the concept of time because I don't know. I just feel like when I think of men, I associate them with tardiness and I associate them with like not like I associate girls and women with like scheduling and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. And so I just feel like the concept of time is girly. And you know, it's not to say that men don't entirely use the concept of time, but I just feel like it's like wake up when it makes sense, go to sleep. Most men I know just fall asleep in the middle of the day. So it's like,
Yeah.
do you really even know what
My
time it
dad
is?
my dad goes to sleep at 7:30 like every night. And then 2 days ago, it was 5:30 and he said, "I am so tired. I'm falling asleep in an hour." I was like, "You're falling asleep at 6:30?" He
Yeah.
said, "Yes." But he watched a movie with me till 11.
So he probably didn't know it was 6:30 till you told him, or 5, I don't remember what time you just said. But
Yeah, 5:30.
probably didn't know till you told him, and then he thought, "Oh, I should stay up and watch a movie, and then I'll go to bed." Like because
Mhm.
my dad is like falling asleep all day, and he stays up a lot at night, and it's like I guess the other part of that is maybe it's just that they don't need time and they go by their own clock. I don't know.
Mm.
They go by their own, so therefore they just don't even need the concept of time.
Yeah.
Live your life.
Like women understand Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
Yes.
but for men, they're just like body does what
Yeah.
it does at a certain time and it can't be controlled.
Yeah. It's like, okay, go to the bathroom here. I guess I have to go to work here. That's the only thing that's scheduled out, and then move it right along.
Mhm.
That's
And
it.
if you think about it, I just thought of this right now. I don't know if you did this in elementary school, Tegan, but do you remember the clocks? The little
Yeah.
yellow clocks they used to tell time?
Yeah.
Those were called Susie clocks.
Oh,
Susie is traditionally a girl's name.
it is. That's true. So someone has been trying to tell us all along.
Exactly.
Someone's been trying to tell us all along. I don't know. I think this argument is perfectly sound.
I think so as well. I think it's an easy, bang yes from the gavel.
Yeah. Now I feel like I'm going to be observing this extra closely in my real life. I'm going to be watching the men in my life very closely.
Be like, imagine inviting a man on a date and instead of saying meet me at 7 p.m., saying
Meet me when
you'll
you feel like
feel it in your body when it's time.
meet me when you think it's time for dinner. That's funny.
So the next topic on my list is spoons.
Spoon.
Yes. So get this.
Okay.
Forks are pointy. They have little points, and it's kind of like the male uh, sex organs. Whereas spoons, they don't have the pointy pit. They are curvy, similar to the biologically feminine curves. So, exactly. And now you might be saying, like, well, like, men can't eat soup with forks and women can't, make, like, eat chicken with spoons. And of course, like, why is, like, we're saying whatever. I know. You could still eat with whatever you want, but
Yeah, like
I think
men, in the same way that men can do girly things.
exactly. It's like cats and dogs. You
Hmm.
know, for some reason, people think dogs are masculine and cats are feminine when there
No,
are male cats and there are female dogs.
if anything, I'd make the other argument that I feel like cats are more masculine because they like take way less work and you don't have to spend time with them. And dogs are feminine because you always have to be with the dog. You're like dependent on the dog. Like if we're basing it off of like those sort of
Interesting.
stereotypes. But that's a whole other that's a can of worms to open.
Yeah, yeah. And there's also the idea of, like, well, what's fish then? Non-binary, you know? But there's so many other animals. So is there a gender for other animals? But
Yeah.
maybe sporks are the non-binary equivalent in the spoon fork argument.
Wow. But can I bring up a contra a contradiction?
Go ahead, go ahead.
I would think, although you kind of had me sold when you said like the sex organs, but I think a fork is so much more useful
Hmm.
and so much more versatile, and I feel like in that way I would associate it with being girly.
Because women are useful and versatile. And when I think about it, what is even more pointy than forks? Knives.
Knives.
And even in plays and movies and stuff, writers tend to use knives and swords and guns as, like, phallic symbols. Like, I was reading a play where someone brought out a sword and the teacher was like, that is symbolic for his penis. And bringing out the sword, he's measuring his masculinity.
Then I have
So,
a question for is in every show ever when there's a sword, is that symbolic of his penis? Like, is there ever an opportunity for a sword to not be symbolic of a penis, or is that just how it is?
I mean, well, okay, a couple of things with that. First off, did you know that the word vagina is actually Latin for sword holder?
Wow, that's kind of intense.
Yeah, yeah. So the technical biological word is kind of, urban slang in the Latin world.
So we're all walking around with sword holders.
Exactly, exactly. Though, admittedly, that is focused on, men. How come we're the sword holders and how come it's
They're
not
not
that
the something
the cylinder pokers?
looters. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's interesting. We should
exactly.
reverse that.
Yes,
Period.
truth. And then there's also the idea that if you just look at sword fighting through the history, I mean, a lot of wars have been fought by men and, like, mainly male armies. So it just has, like, a history of masculinity associated with the sword.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, now I'm not gonna two things. I'm gonna be thinking about men in time, and I'm gonna be thinking about every time I watch something and a sword's pulled out, I'm just gonna think about a penis. That's just how it's gonna be.
So what was your second topic?
My second topic was condoms. While we're talking about sex organs specifically.
Wow. What a
Um,
perfect segue.
what a perfect segue. Um, and I say that because why are like condoms useful? You know, to penetrate a woman and like not ejaculate, like not, to protect from having a bebe.
Bebe.
And also not give STDs, which I don't want to like cancel out same-sex partners and things, but like more than protecting from STDs, I think you know protecting from having a child is like its main use. And in
Mm-hmm.
that sense, it's girly.
Mm.
It's girly. But also I don't want that to like the issue with that is that would really turn people off from using condoms and just be like, oh, we're not gonna use condoms. We're just gonna. But in the same vein, I think heterosexual sex is girly. You know what I mean?
But what about lesbian sex, which literally includes two girls?
That too. That too. Any sex that involves a woman is girly. Period. End.
It's interesting that for both this one and Forks, your like underlying explanation was, well, it's a useful thing. Women are useful,
Yeah.
therefore useful things are feminine.
Yeah. I just think it checks out. I don't know. And then if a man is useful, that's great. And it's girly. But I think one of the reasons I think it's okay to say that some of these things are girly is that the people like competence is girly is because
Yeah.
people who are actually competent would probably be okay with being labeled girly and know that that doesn't mean anything. But people
Mm.
who are incompetent and like scared of the concept of being girly and are so obsessed with the gender binary are actually incompetent, and so it's like they are afraid of girly, and so it's like, oh well, competence is girly. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I don't know if that
No,
makes
I
sense.
know exactly what you mean because it's about like women competing in the workspace.
Yeah.
The idea that in you know traditionally masculine professions like politics, like STEM, like being a doctor, women have had to work so hard just to hit kind of the bare minimum level for men. And the pay gap still totally exists.
Hmm.
I mean, think about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right? She was one of the few women in her class at Columbia. Well, I believe she either started at Harvard then went to Columbia, or she started at Columbia and went to Harvard. I don't quite remember. But she like worked so hard for her spot there, and she had to take care of her kid at the same time, and she had to take care of her husband who had cancer. Um, and so she went to all that trouble. She got this amazing degree at an Ivy League school. And when she tried to apply to jobs right outside of school, people were trying to hire her as a paralegal because she was a woman. And so she's expected to be even more competent just to be a paralegal. Um, and then you think of industries that are mainly women, like acting, and because there are so many women, they have to work even harder
Hmm.
to keep up with the competition.
Yeah.
So, and thinking about like the guys, I mean, of course, like there are like plenty of like competent men out there, smart men, hardworking men. Obviously, that's, but there's not that same feeling that you have to work even harder that women have, and that also like certain people of color have. Um, so yeah, no wonder just like competence seems like a girly thing. Like I stand
Yeah.
behind that.
Yeah, I stand behind that. And it reminds me of that commercial. I don't know if it's for like a period product or something, but they ask young girls to run in a girly way. And
Mm,
and I think they asked like older people to run girly, and the older people kind of ran in an insulting way, but the younger girls ran in a really strong way. And I think the same thing about people of like people who take girly as an insult like aren't competent anyway. Like it's kind of in the same way like I remember in middle school like when kids would be like you're gay or like that's gay as if it's an insult anyway, and it's like
yeah.
it's not an insult, you know.
Yeah.
I
And
don't
because
know.
the with behind those insults is always the fear that they're incompetent.
Yeah.
The idea that those male bosses in the law offices not promoting Ruth Bader Ginsburg know that she's better than them. And so
Mhm.
the only way they can put her down is by using her gender against her. And
Yeah.
then with kids in middle school, these little boys are afraid of their masculinity and their sexuality. So they're going to tell these other boys, you're gay, even though, like, okay, it's not an insult.
Yeah. Speaking of gay, no, I'm just kidding. I have no idea how that could have segued, but we also had pretty similar ideas for that third slot there. Do you want to take it away, Sarah?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. So I said red meat. Now, my thought behind red meat was that, first off, for some reason, it has a masculine connotation.
Yeah.
Like, there's
What's up with
so Exactly. Like there's so many TV shows where it's like, "Oh, I'm eating steak. It's manly." And you know what's even manlier? The fact that I'm eating it rare. Like
that?
it's raw meat that I hunted in the jungle. And there's this one
Have fun
steakhouse.
with that food poisoning.
Exactly, exactly. But there's this one steakhouse I go to in New York that like has like pictures of naked women on the wall. And
Ew.
I'm like, what the heck? And the only,
I mean, not you to those women, like good for those women, but you to whoever was like, let's put naked women on the wall.
literally, because there's nothing I would rather do on a Friday night than just like eat steak while staring at a black and white photo framed on the wall of a naked woman in a public restaurant. But the only explanation I can think of for that is the idea that there are more female vegetarians and vegans.
Hmm.
But even still, it's like, but that doesn't mean it's like masculine. And so the reason I think it should be feminine specifically is because not to connect, the biology of being female to the feminine gender. But there are many women who get their periods. And if you get your period, you lose blood, which means you lose iron. And if you lose too much iron, you get anemic and you need red meat. So I think that red meat should be considered feminine because it gives you iron to beat anemia.
Well, there you go, Sarah. I mean, that's pretty compelling. I went the opposite route, but also in biology,
Uh huh.
of like talking about the biology of the animals.
Okay.
Because I said all like animal products and eating meat is very girly. Where
Okay.
usually it's the opposite, like going vegan, a lot of people consider to be girly. But if you think about
Mhm.
it, like, how do all those animals come to be? Who gives birth?
Reproduction.
Yeah, and who gives birth to the animals that are being eaten?
Mm.
Woman animals, or I guess not woman animals. You know what
Yeah.
I mean. But anyways, so you're eating the product of of a woman.
Yeah.
So I just think, and also you'd argue that these animals are treated um kind of in an inhumane way often, and I would
Mm.
argue that in society, women are often treated in like, an inhumane
Yeah.
way, sometimes.
I mean, milk, eggs.
Yeah,
Milk literally comes from cows'
we
breasts.
literally have eggs. Like,
Uh
yeah,
huh.
like it's very like we are very. It's just there's a lot shared there, and I think because of that, I have to say that eating animal products is really girly.
I like that. I think it totally checks out.
I think I do too, and I think both arguments just really go hand in hand. And
Yeah.
so,
And because both were based in biology.
Both were based in biology.
which is,
Science.
yeah, science.
We believe in science.
Exactly. So, my next topic was, a little more niche,
Okay.
but I'd like to share it with you today.
Okay, go ahead.
So, ancient Roman names.
Okay.
This semester, I've been taking a history class about the Roman Republic, and from the first day, I saw these names in my textbook, and I'm like, these are amazing. And they are like masculine names, like names for men,
Mm-hmm.
but they're just like such good names that I'm like, we have to reclaim them.
Yeah.
We have to bring them back, and we have to hold ourselves to this kind of standard of how we address ourselves and create legacies.
Yeah.
So here are some of my favorite names.
Okay, I'm into this.
Mm-hmm. Marcus Manlius Capitolinus.
Wow.
Lucius Aemilius Paulus. Quintus Fabius Maximus.
I love that one.
Mm-hmm. Here's the best one. Publius Cornelius Scipio.
Wow.
And with Publius Cornelius Scipio, he was famous, he was a famous general, and he had a lot of offspring. And so each of the offspring had the exact same name as him, Publius Cornelius Scipio, but they were given different nicknames based off of the places they conquered. So there was Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus, Publius Cornelius Scipio Asiaticus. Actually, I think Scipio Asiaticus, I think his name was like Gnaeus or something. But anyway, Scipio Africanus, Scipio Asiaticus, and Scipio Aemilianus. So I think that we should like give ourselves these really, long names with a million syllables, and we should have our kids basically have the same names as us, but like with a little nickname, with a twist.
Well, like, okay, I have two thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
One, I think adding also to your argument is like, who bestowed these names upon these people in the first place?
Yeah.
Like, wasn't it probably the mother?
Perhaps.
Like, wasn't it probably a woman who said, "This is the name of my child"? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was the man who was like, it's my legacy, pass this, whatever."
Mm-hmm.
But at least the woman probably had some sort of say in the name.
The woman was the one who gave the baby.
Exactly.
Marcus Manlius Capitolinus was made by a woman.
Right. And yeah, so for that, it's extra girly. But I also, this kind of goes into another argument I have later, but I'm wondering if I should move it up and tack it onto this, because
Go ahead.
one of the things I think is really, really girly is patience.
Mm-hmm.
And having a long name like this requires a lot of patience.
Yeah.
Saying it, hearing it, being around for it. And I just think that, therefore, I think that really is reasoning for why this is girly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, tell us more about patience.
Yeah, well, I think that, I mean, I've never met a man who has patience, which is kind of why I guess maybe I'm basing it off of experience, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And all the men listening are getting impatient listening to this. They're like, "What? We're not impatient. You listen to the rest of my thoughts, men." I just think, okay, commercials barely still around. We have streaming services, but I think, they're only meant for like women, because I don't think any man is sitting here watching commercials. It's why they're always falling asleep watching TV. You know what I mean?
Actually, yes. Commercials are made for women. I didn't So get this. I mentioned this before. I forgot to mention this before we started the podcast, and you
Uh-huh.
mentioned commercials. I took a class last semester called television management,
Okay.
and the demographic that watches linear TV the most, so I don't know about like Netflix and streaming, but who watches like CBS, NBC, especially daytime television, are mainly stay at home moms and retired women. And
Wow.
so that's why most commercials will be geared towards cleaning products
Wow.
and like home goods. Not because
Wow.
women are cleaners, but if you're stayed at home, you're forced to do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
That makes sense. See, I didn't even know that. And I was like, commercials, girly. Bubble baths, girly. But not for the reason people think they're girly. It's because
Mm.
it requires patience. And a shower, you jump in, jump out. Although most men probably don't even shower, you know? But like think about how patient women have to be with inequality and the patriarchy and men being annoying all the
Mm.
time and just not being listened to. Like it's just a girly trait.
I mean, we've been awfully patient about waiting for a female president.
We've been awfully patient. Yeah. We've been awfully patient just waiting for all men to just disappear from Earth. I don't know, but I also think along with that, because of that, another thing I think that is girly, I think, is being multilingual. And I think that's part of
Mm.
it is the patience. And then also, I think just the mental capacity and competence, you know? I
Mm-hmm.
feel like because women compartmentalize, because women actually tell time, all those kinds of things, they can compartmentalize and organize multiple languages in their brain.
I feel like, okay, picture a woman at like a conference who is like, and I say conference just to like make there be a sense of, all eyes on her, professionalism, heightened tension. This woman goes up to a podium and she starts saying something in English, and then she goes, "Oh, and by the way," and then says it in Spanish, and then says it in French, and then says it in like, you know, Chinese. Like that is like there's something about it that's like, ooh, suave. But then if you like imagine a man doing that, like still great, being multilingual, like amazing. But like, I don't know. I'm
It
pro
kind
woman.
of would come off as like showing off of like I feel like he would honestly be I feel like if a girl walks up to the podium and does that, I feel like
Huh.
she like is just like, oh, I'm just doing it. I just know all these language. But a guy walks up and he's like, I know all these languages. Like I feel like it's
Mm.
kind of like an ego thing or like he's extra like probably when you're in a circle and you have to say a fact about yourself, like that's probably his fact that he always says like I
Huh.
know 5 languages, whereas like she's discreet about it. And I
Yeah,
feel like for that reason it doesn't get to be a
she's
male trait.
humble. She's
Mhm.
humble, and because she's humble about it, that makes the talent
Like
cooler.
she learned the languages to communicate with a lot of different people
Mm-hmm.
and stuff, but he learned the languages for unclear reasons.
Just to
Un-
prove he can.
Unclear motives, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
this makes sense.
That also brings up the idea that, unclear motives are masculine, but clear motives that are directed at helping people are feminine.
Yeah, yeah. Is
Yeah.
this a segue? This almost sounds like a segue.
This I mean, oh, I could make it a segue. So, my next topic, speaking of helping people, this person brings baskets to everybody's door every April. I think the Easter Bunny should be feminine. And what makes me think about this is Santa Claus is a man. Why can't the Easter Bunny be a woman? And thinking about the Santa Claus trilogy with Tim Allen, they have all of the figures in it, like legendary figures, and they have Santa Claus is a man, Father Time is a man, Cupid is a man, the Easter Bunny is a man, the Tooth Fairy is a man, and they even make jokes about, oh, he's a male tooth fairy. Oh, but the fairy's very feminine. Ha 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 ha. Whatever. And then Mother Nature is a woman. Uh, which, like, how on this legendary figures board, how come it's so male populated? And of course, Father Time is a man. Father Cupid, is a figure in Greek and Roman mythology, male character. Okay, you want to make the Tooth Fairy bit about him being a man, fine. So let's make the Easter Bunny a woman.
But my thing is, like, if the Easter Bunny's a woman, I'm rooting for her.
What?
If the Easter Bunny's a woman, I'm worried for her.
Why?
Because if you're the one, like, female figure among a whole group of men.
Well, Mother Nature's also there.
Oh, Mother Nature. But I feel like you're gonna be the one that's picked on. I mean, you're like a bunny.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And especially like if these things were all created and seem to randomly, weirdly have this essence of like toxic masculinity surrounding them.
Mm.
I just worry for her. I worry for her if the bunny is a she. I'm worried.
Interesting. When you started saying you were worried for her, I thought you were gonna say you were worried, like, oh my god, what if she's like hopping along and then like someone attacks her? And I feel like in that sense, she probably, hopefully, would use her powers if she has any powers. I assume she does.
Maybe that's why the Easter Bunny didn't come one year.
The Easter Bunny didn't come one year?
To my household. At least.
Damn.
I don't know if it was universal, but we missed a trip from the Easter Bunny and maybe she got attacked.
Maybe maybe a basket that said Teagan on it arrived at my house. I'm not at liberty to say.
You have something to say. So, is there something you've been keeping from
me? What? Next topic.
Next topic might be controversial. It's the fact that having a good sense of smell is girly. I don't actually know why I said it's controversial. I just wanted to create some drama on the other end. But I think that I don't think it's because of what people are probably thinking with like the candles and the perfumes. I'm not thinking because of that. I'm thinking because of like natural human smell and like the instinct of fixing bad smells. I feel like is really girly because I don't think men, at least men that I've been around, have that instinct. I feel like men are oblivious to a bad smell. And so I at least personally really associate having a good sense of smell with like being a girly trait.
I mean, I have two thoughts to that.
Okay.
My first thought is I think of the video on YouTube of John Mulaney and Nick Kroll explaining puberty to young kids. And they're trying to, this little girl is like, John Mulaney, why do boys smell so bad? And he like uses the frog in the boiling pot analogy. Like a frog gets into a pot of lukewarm water and then someone boils the pot and it gets worse and worse, but the frog doesn't feel it because he's feeling the heating up as it's happening, so he barely notices the difference until it's really, really hot. So there's that idea that during puberty, boys might not notice their BO in a boiling frog analogy, but also in one of my classes, there is a boy who actually does not have a sense of smell. He lost it a couple years ago. And I don't know like all the details of it, but in our class, his project is about like funding research and development for making machines that would like alert someone as to when there was like a foul odor in a room. And so he's a guy, haven't met any girls with the same disease.
I kind of am. This also, I feel like we could also incorporate like the concept of I'm trying to look this up right now, like the percentage of how many men of the genders like have had COVID in comparison to women, and how many have lost
Mm.
sense of smell and stuff,
Oh
because
my god.
I feel like that's also a factor to involve and involve in the computations
Mm-hmm.
of if we're talking about smell, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
I
That's a
don't
good point.
I don't know if men or women have been more susceptible to it or have had it. I don't know. Are there any stats? Let me see. I'm not finding anything right now, but people at home, look it up.
Do
I'm
the
gonna see.
research for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. And because I wonder how many, more men or more women are affected by COVID.
Yeah. Very interesting. But I
Interesting.
also know some people are affected by there's something that happens where their smell is distorted and they'll just smell really
Mm.
gross things all the time, even if like they'll smell strawberries and it'll smell like gasoline.
I had not heard that.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons why it's really, I think COVID's really scary. You know, a lot of young people obviously think that they'll just be immune or just have a little cold, but sure, you
Mm-hmm.
might have a little cold, but you might also develop a symptom like that people got COVID and still their smell has been distorted like that ever since. It's
Mm-hmm.
really scary. Like you
I,
just can't stop the bad smell.
yeah. I saw a weird TikTok hack that was like if you burn an orange, like literally like burn an orange basically to a crisp, or like not to a crisp, but like just burn the outside so it's all black and charred, and then peel the peel back and put the like inside orange and mix it in with like, gosh, I don't remember, maybe it was cinnamon or maybe it was salt, I don't remember, but you mix it with some stuff and you mush it and then you eat this mush. It's supposed to bring your taste buds back.
Wow.
So I wonder if that's real.
Wow. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
DIY bring back taste buds. People are learning a lot in this episode. Like this isn't a really educational moment.
Yeah, we're going through every single topic on the face of this planet.
Yeah, really truly.
And
Which I
another,
feel like is also very like um I'm not thinking of any of the words that I want to today. It's
mhm,
very I feel like it demonstrates a lot of how our conversations go because I feel like we can really just go into little crevices of ideas and just talk about them, and I just feel like we it just branches out into so many weird things.
yeah, you hit every branch on the tree on
Yeah.
the way to the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Speaking of trees, weather is a thing.
Yes, it is.
Nature, weather, clothes we use to protect ourselves from weather,
Yes.
heaters, coolers that we use to protect ourselves from weather.
Yes. And our next topics are very intertwined.
Very intertwined.
Would you like to take it away with your side of the argument, Tegan?
Absolutely. So I kind of have, I guess my argument has turned into something else. It was that ACs are girly.
Hmm.
But then I also realized heaters are also girly. And so I'm wondering if maybe just any change of temperature is girly.
Hmm.
And I say this because women are cold more often than men, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is I think women are more vocal about being cold. And they're not afraid to ask, hey, can we turn on the heater?
Yeah.
Hey, you know, they almost never ask to turn on the AC, but it's because they are cold. And so I
Mm-hmm.
thought the act of feeling cold is girly. Because, men who like, want to be masculine and all that, I feel like they wouldn't even state that they're cold, even if they were,
Mm-hmm.
because for some reason it's more masculine to be warm. But then I also thought maybe a heater is girly then, because if you're always cold and you need to use a heater to warm up, maybe that's girly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where that train of thought went of like an AC representative of being cold, like that's girly.
Yeah.
But then needing a heater, using a heater, that's quite girly too.
It's a chicken or the egg thing.
Exactly. Exactly.
Is it the state of being girly that's girly, or is it the making of girliness girly?
Exactly. You put it better than I ever could, Sarah.
Oh, thank you, thank you. And the topic that I thought of that goes into this is the idea of raincoats. Because in elementary school, the boys in my class would always refuse to wear jackets. I would show up to school in the morning in my polo shirt, in my sweatshirt, and in my fleece, and because it would be cold. But these boys would come to school with just their shirts and their shorts, and they'd be like, "We don't need to wear them. We don't need to wear them," like they're tough or something.
Yeah.
But if it rained, then they would smell horrible because like rain on humans just like makes everything smell horrible. And this one kid, I think in second grade, his name was Sean Fitzgerald. Shout out to him, haven't talked to him in forever, but he got pneumonia. Yeah, and he was out of school for like a couple of weeks, and we literally had to make cards for him to get better. And like
And you said, should have worn a jacket, Sean.
literally, I don't remember what school he goes to, but he goes to an Ivy League school right now.
Uh-huh.
So, go back in time and say, "Seems like you're pretty smart." Not smart enough to dress for the weather though.
We're not saying to send hate mail, but just kidding.
I will drop his DM in the description. Just kidding.
Um, you know how people are always saying like men are furnaces? And I don't know if
Yes,
you've
I've
ever
heard that.
experienced or like tried to sleep in the same bed as a man or like cuddled or been close. Like I don't know your experience with experiencing that, but that's
Yeah.
true. Like there is that warmth. It's crazy. They
Hmm.
radiate that heat. And I'm wondering it's because they're training from a young age and trying to build up their tolerance by
Yeah.
not wearing jackets so that
Hmm.
when they're older, they're just furnaces because they're too embarrassed to ever have to ask for a heater. So they just build it up that way.
It's like how spies take little doses of poison
Yeah.
over time so that if they do get poisoned, they'll survive.
I didn't even,
Yeah.
but so basically it's the same thing.
Yeah. Perhaps. And of
Yeah,
course, we like to say to everyone here, we encourage you to wear raincoats.
we do.
Everyone should wear raincoats, even boys.
Yeah.
But
And I guess what we're really trying to say is, we would label these things as girly, but there's no way you should take something being girly as a reason not to do it or as an
mhm.
insult, kind of what we were saying.
Yeah.
It should encourage you to do it regardless of your gender
Yeah. And
or
because we're
regardless of
proud. We're
yeah,
proud as women of being part of the group of people that have been protecting ourselves from rain since the beginning.
since the beginning. And I do plenty of things that are masculine or manly or boily, you know.
Uh-huh. Boily.
I do
Boylike.
plenty of things like that and I don't feel shame, so you should do things that are girly if you don't identify as a girl and not feel shame. Break that down. Get out of it.
So, this brings us to the next segment of our episode called Convince Chelsea. Now, for today's episode, we've decided to convince Chelsea on dairy products and red meat. So imagine this, Teagan.
Okay.
Imagine you're walking through downtown San Mateo and you walk past a restaurant. Let's say that restaurant is, I don't know, Jeffrey's, and it has that outdoor eating. And there's all these girls eating their burger, but there's one girl who doesn't have a burger or a milkshake. Her name is Chelsea. And you overhear her go, God, I'm a vegan and I hate red meat. Or I hate all meat. And I hate dairy, especially dairy. Now you must convince her, wait a minute, Chelsea. Didn't you get the memo? That's girly now.
Chelsea. Meat is in for girls. I mean it when I say it. Don't you want to support all of the woman animals who birthed the food that could be in your mouth? You could be supporting them. You could be becoming one with them. You have to open your eyes and see that, like, that woman chicken who laid an egg, you have eggs too. You're kind of like the same. So don't let men go and take all the woman products. We need to go and claim all the woman products for our own. A. B. I will say, if you don't eat meat and don't give your body those protein and enzymes, then you're probably going to end up having some indigestion problems later. Part of that, Chelsea, is that there are like all these amino acids, and meat and eggs are the only ways to get all of those amino acids in one. That doesn't even have to do with being girly, but I think being healthy and fun and flirty is girly. So if you want to get amino acids, if you want to get all of them in one, you got to eat your meats.
I think Chelsea is pretty convinced.
Good.
It was
I'm
a great
glad.
moment.
Chelsea, come with me, the meat eater, and let's go eat some meat. It's ironic because I don't eat.
I know. It's
but
funny.
I do eat eggs. I'm supporting the eggs.
The egg industry.
The women.
Do you drink cow milk?
I don't.
Mm.
The only animal product I can do is egg. But it's not because I don't want to. It's because I have like dairy lactose intolerance.
Yeah.
And then I was born not eating meat, and I kind of wish I didn't, because I think it contributed to all my fun gastrointestinal issues that I have today. I think IBS is such a girly thing too.
You know, actually, I have seen a lot of TikToks that are like, hot girls have IBS, hot girls have stomach issues. And honestly, as someone with like a very high tolerance for milk, I feel left out.
Yeah, I really get. I understand. I think it's just a way to like amplify the voices of the stomach impaired people, you know? You know, because I will say, for me, it's definitely made me feel better. But yeah, I mean, yeah. That there's a whole bucket of snakes there. I'm gonna start saying that instead of can of worms. There's a whole bucket of snakes there. But yeah,
I like that.
I think.
Well, it's been an awesome episode, Teagan.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for having me on here.
Thank you for being on. And
talk about all things girly.
Exactly. And for all the listeners, I'll see you next time.